It's a constant throb, but minuscule like a whimper from behind a deep breath. It starts from where I am and leaks out slowly, meandering about the woods to the bypass that announces the edge of town. It's like metal soaring against metal. It's a game of Chinese whispers. It's a series of ticks and whistles that swirl. There was once a track the odd rambler would stumble across. The track can no longer be traced. There is a little patch of land overgrown with bushes, brambles and weeds, a small opening of wet soil. I let the thicket grow. It camouflages, creeps and engulfs. It's buried us here beautifully. Small insects and rodents gather in the green and brown to build their nests. Many saunter straight past without notice. They have done for years. It's quiet and desolate. Nature creeps. At night, large animals pass by and sniff around for things to steal. Foxes, stoats and badgers reel around. I'm out of the way as they sweep. There's no intimacy, just an exchange. That's nature. The whisper of rumours calls a few out. I look down the road to where cars zip by and the people sprint about. The jigsaw patterns of developments, their pristine shine. I see the glass and metal choking and raging. I'm among the great history. I mark moment to moment, and I send out little whispers. I own nothing. All of my movements are in autumn. I sit in my thicket away from it all. I am being. Curious people lost in the dark, or people who have come to see for themselves if the rumours are true. They see little. They run away, tripping, breaking away little by little. It's a hard lesson being alone. I still go down to the edge of the woods for a peek. The rumours work. A little sign here and there. Each tale needs a flint. She led me along the old track. I still had cravings. It could have been anyone, but she was easy, kind, trusting, easy. When the rumours started, people made up such fables. There were the two of us around. The trees too distant to see or hear. All those fables. I work hard and I stay invisible. I am being. They were the first for some time, those boys. It was dusk and the sky flamed pink and orange. They were tempted and afraid and shamed, like I was, like all of us. I had to do it, to view it. No one came to find me deep down in the wych elm. They know that it's just a story and that the woods are dense and full of those whispers. You can easily lose your way back from here. You can easily lose your way. So that was an extract from my novel Bella, which is out with Wild Pressed Books and was published at the beginning of March. I'm doing this clip at the moment as part of the kind of promo and a sort of online tour, I guess. Today I should have been at the University of Wolverhampton's campus in Stafford, who very kindly asked me to give a little public talk about the novel and about some of the ideas that are found in it. So what I thought I would do is just give a brief outline of some of those ideas for you via the channel of YouTube. So I'd like to start with an idea that formed part of my PhD thesis at the University of Wolverhampton and was a great deal part of this book. And that's an idea called place identity, which was an idea that was formed by an idea that was coined by Harold Prashansky and developed into much of the ideas and much of the focus that we see in environmental psychology. Now, we establish a sense of place, according to the environmental psychologists, by kind of picking up and putting down different cultural markers, signs and signifiers that are associated with place. On the one hand, you've got the kind of convenience and functional side of things, like decent bus route, decent schools, access to green areas, good theatres and whatnot that might happen, and access to entertainment and leisure and culture that you could kind of get in almost any town across the UK. And then there's the more sort of site and locale specific side of things, which are your family, friends, the memories and cultural moments and social moments that connect you to a place, and also the historical and cultural significance of that locale. For example, figures like Duncan Edwards and James Whale in Dudley, where I'm from and where the novel is set, are really important markers of the area's achievements, I suppose, as well as its industrial heritage and the kind of history that's related with that. So these are all site-specific or region and locale-specific markers that the environmental psychologists argue that we imbibe these as we move about our day-to-day, as we move through life. We pick up and put down all of these different cultural markers, and these become really important symbols for our identity, of how we see ourselves in the world, and they become a kind of mirror for how we see ourselves in the world as well, as locale, as people of locales, of people of regions, of people of towns, of people of estates. And you can think of that in terms of the macro and the micro, really. So that's sort of what place identity is. It's this picking up of attaching things to ourselves, of attaching signs, symbols, and cultural and historical markers to ourselves. And they can be very, very personal or functional, and they can be a bit more elusive, historical, cultural, artistic, or even just a sort of vague, haunting spirit of a place. And it's all these things that add up that make a spirit of a place. So it stands to reason that part of the makeup of place identity and part of the makeup of spirit of place are the stories that we tell about places, and the stories that we tell that are site and place specific. Things like beasts, jaguars, great big cats, Bigfoots that live in the woods, and they're never just in the wilderness. They're always on the edge of towns. They're always just out of reach, but potentially threatening and within. So they're both homely and unhomely. They're both close and far away. And they're attractive and repulsive in equal measure because of that. It's a threat, but it's a threat that we're drawn to with these stories. And like I say, stories of the local woods or the local canal or strange patches of green land, particularly in post-industrial regions, you can see right across the UK. And it's these stories that leak their way down from their locations, but also from generation to generation, from friend to friend, family member to family member, each adding and changing little bits of information so they become these big organisms in their own right as well. So that's what you get in the stories that we tell about places, and the details, information, site-specific information, and the level of threat, haunting and uncanniness can tell us quite a lot about the people of those places. And I believe that these stories, these myths, these modern urban myths, these secular myths, become a really important part of that makeup of place identity. And it's that that's really at the heart of this novel, Bella. The story of who put Bella in the Wych Elm. Now, for those of you who don't know, at the back end of the Second World War, in my region, the Black Country, a group of scouts went foraging for eggs in the local woods and came across the skeletal remains of a woman. There was various other odd bits of information there as well, like we knew that her jaw was cracked, we knew that her skull was broken, we knew that she had some taffeta or some kind of cloth pushed down her throat. One of her hands was missing. They only found one shoe. And all of these are historical facts. All of this definitely happened. But what happened next, and subsequently, no one really knows the answers to. And indeed, what happened before, no one really has any answers to. So it's this really ripe, open-ended mystery. Around the same time that this happened, graffiti started appearing. And the graffiti said, "Who put Bella down the Wych Elm?" And "I know who put Bella down the Wych Elm." And it's, no one really knows who did it, whether it was a hoax, whether it was the perpetrator. But every now and then you spot it, still to this day. There's also loads and loads of wonderful conspiracy theories about Bella and who put her there, from Cold War espionage to satanic rituals. And I think, for me, the open-endedness to the story, the fact that there are multiple rhizomes of interpretation and of extrapolation, and the fact that it's set, like I just described, right on the edge of the Black Country, right where the old industrial region becomes definite countryside, becomes definite rurality, rural life, is important, because it's just on the periphery where all great ghosts reside. And it's that, I think, that can tell quite a lot about the cultural and collective psyche of the region, that we are somehow always kind of looking back, that we are somehow always kind of tied to the ghosts of our industrial past. And there's a sense that the Black Country is lost, but not done with itself yet. Like a great ghost story, constantly trying to find its way out of its loop. And that's why these kind of stories are really important to locales, and why it's part of the main thrust of this story. I'm going to end with the introductory section, which is Michelle. And she's the kind of main protagonist of the novel, who is really interested and is pulled and touched, like all of the characters are in the novel, by the mystery, by the threat, by the lure, and all of those things together. This spells out some of the landscape of the region as well. Michelle. I don't believe in witches or ghosts or whatnot, but there was something about Saltwells and Bella, in one form or another. I was always there. Tim said he was an atheist, but he still day walk under ladders and he hated black cats. It's the same with Bella. Even if you think it's just a story, you still don't want to test it. Tim said he knew what happened. I needed to know. I remember driving up from the Delft towards Cradley and we were stopped at the lights at the top of Quarry Bonk. Tony was with me and he'd pointed it out. It's a crossroads here and it's all concrete, brick, tarmac. It's grey, cold, stony. Back in the day they'd make nails and chains if you went down one road, and they'd make glass if you turned around. Most of that had died out, so it was just a shadow of a place, a junction just to get to somewhere else. The lights at Quarry Bank and four-way with 3 lanes at each opening. It's busy with people heading to the shops, to work. It's always busy and you never get across. You've always got to wait. It ain't nothing except a border between a couple of places that ain't proper towns any road. Tony's with me and he's said it. See, round here we're always looking back. We're built from what come before us. Chains, steel, nails, soot and smoke in the skies. Most of it's gone now. We've still got red bricks and concrete, corrugated metal and all that. But we ain't got forges. We ain't got mystic blacksmiths. We've got almost barren high streets. We've got slick glass, brass and plastic we're built over the works with. Stocking rows of dead-headed credit controllers, PPI reps, retail consultants. We've got Merry Hill, an indoor town that spreads out in sanitised pound zones. Then there's what's left over. Little dry suburbs that sink between hills, where dead-headed factories and wrapped in weeds, and big housing estates all wet and angry and all punctured in electric light. Them no-go zones unless you're from there. Each zone has its own half-deserted labour club, its own brand of menacing teen, its own bit of cut or brook or strange patch of green land that mopes between a terrace row and the mechanics. Tony was with me, and he said it. Poking out through a crack in the curb was a tiny green vine, and on the vine were tiny green tomatoes. Tony said it was like Detroit, how it was once the biggest industrial hub in the US, how nature had started to claim back the city, now it had run its course. There was something frightening about that. It come out of the ground, that's what they're meant to do, but the ground was meant to be controlled by us, not weeds. I wondered what else was lurking under our industry, waiting to come back. It made me think of salt wells and where we'd play when we was kids. Who put Bella down the witch elm? Thank you very much for listening. This is RM Francis with Bella, out now with Wild Press Books.